But you don't meet Sunday morning.
Right. And so, like, if you've got a family, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got kids and stuff, you're not, like, up early trying to get them going. And you go nice and early, you meet with everybody, you have dinner together.
Somebody bring it?
Yeah.
Like a potluck?
Yeah.
How many come?
I think we probably got about 100 people now.
Is that right? That's a lot.
Probably about that, I would guess. I guess on any given night we're between 50.
So you'd almost say it's more of a Bible study.
Well, I mean, that's full. I mean, we do praise and worship just like anybody else. We have a sermon just like anybody else. But it's just not big, you know.
Is it, you have a regular preacher?
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We have three pastors.
So how does that, it's not really a denomination, it's just a group of people getting together, right?
Oh, no, it's Anglican. That's an Anglican denomination.
What is that?
Oh, well, I mean, it's more of an Orthodox type of a
Like Lutheran?
type of a situation. Yeah, it's probably closer to Lutheran. You know, I grew up Pentecostal up north, and so I still have a great love for, you know, Pentecostalism. I still go to a lot of Church of God events. I do a lot of stuff with the Church of God of Prophecy. So I have a deep Pentecostal type heritage. This is just a really small Anglican mission over off Blythe Bower.
It's not extracurricular, it's a real church.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yeah, it's not extracurricular.
Yeah.
At all. No, that's fantastic. Where do you go?
I go to Central Church of Christ.
Okay.
And we quit Sunday evenings during COVID.
Okay.
And haven't started back. Mm-hmm. But it's probably 200 people, something like that. But we're pretty easy going.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
Pentecostal, that arrived. That was what they referred to as holy rollers, I guess, right?
I guess. I mean, I grew up holy rolling. I guess. I mean, I like it. I was just at the Church of God General Assembly in San Antonio last week, and their praise and worship services are awesome. I mean, they are emotional. They are passionate. The music is thumping. It's great, you know, and that's like my favorite part about it. You know, I love it.
What do you get from it?
From those services? There's just so much beautiful energy.
I mean, for church in general.
Oh, well, I think part of it is it's a big grounding to who I am as a person. You know, there's a deep. I think everybody is looking for how they connect to the world and to other people, and trying to figure out how they fit. And so many of us do that through religion and spirituality. And for me, you know, I just started as a kid, right, going with my parents. And then at some point, you turn around and you realize, oh, wait a minute, it's my thing. You know, like this is the thing that I believe. And then when you get there, then you really have to contend with it. Do I really believe it? Do I believe it because I was told to believe it? Do I believe it because I believe it? And, you know, I've spent so many times in my life dissecting it and looking at it and trying to figure it out. And for me, it feels just undeniable. Like you know when you know, right? Mm-hmm. You know when something feels deeply true to you. Because I do tend to be in the world. I'm pretty pragmatic, and I'm oftentimes skeptical.
What's pragmatic mean?
It means I like to make my decisions off data.
Off practical stuff?
Yeah, I like to take in all the data and then make my decisions that way instead of how I feel.
If you do that, it's hard to justify religion if you take it from a practical standpoint, because there's no proof. We can't push the computer button and
I think that's part of it, right? Except for me, right? When I look at all of the good that it does, you know, there's so many people who have, would say they've been hurt by the church. We have those words, church hurt, for a reason, right?
Yeah.
But when we really look at the good that following Christ has done in the world, right? The real good. Like, if all of the Christian-based nonprofits shut down tomorrow, that would be 2/3 of all the nonprofits in the world.
We'd be hurting.
What would we do? How would we feed the homeless, right? So it's not about it being perfect. People aren't perfect. You're not perfect. I'm not perfect. And nobody at your church is going to be perfect. Nobody at my church is going to be perfect. And so I think, like, right, the closer, one of the things is, in religion and spirituality, right, those are experiences that draw us close to one another, right? I was just saying, when I was in San Antonio last week and I was watching the Church of God services, and they were just so intense and beautiful and spiritual, and I felt close, really close to it, And no one can hurt you like the people you're close to, right? The people that you're closest to. Whether that's your spouse, or it's your brother, or it's your best friend. When you live life with people, you can be hurt hard, right? And so our instinct, right, is just to not love them. It's just not to get close, or to say, well, the church hurt me. Well, that's a big term. The church, right?
Pretty broad.
The church is a big broad thing. And so I think my pragmatic side looks at everything that the church actually has done and is doing, and says, this is good in the world, right? And that's what I want my own life to be about. I want to be doing kind things in the world. I want to be neighborly to my neighbors. I want to be loving to my wife and to my friends and to people I've never known. And I think that there's nowhere that exemplifies that more for me than in my faith, So I think there is a lot of pragmatic data to say that this works. Right?
I believe you're right. We say there's no evidence, but the proof's in the pudding, I guess, as they say.
Yeah.
And that's how you've been able to add a pragmatic approach to something that's somewhat obscure.
It's out there in the clouds sometimes,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a time in my life when I was going through doubt, and I was going through anxiety, and I would wake up and I would be so angry, and I would tell God, I don't think you exist, right? If you exist, how can we have war? If you exist, how can we have family?
Show me the clock stop, right?
Yeah, and I was so upset. And I would say, I don't believe in you. And then I'd get calmed down a little bit, and I would think, then who am I talking to?
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Who am I yelling at?
Yeah.
Who am I yelling at to say you don't exist?
Well, that's a good point. I've never thought of it on that angle.
And
who are we talking to if he doesn't exist?
Who are we talking to if you don't exist? And I do think, I will say this, I do think that a lot of times the problem that people have with religion or Christianity or what have you, spirituality, any of these things, is that we think it ought to all work the way that human beings work, right? We think that, in the Bible, when it says that we're made in the image of God, that maybe means the physical image of God, or maybe that means the emotional image of God, or the intellectual image of God. But the truth is, we are not like God. Thank goodness. Like, right? We are not Him, and He's not us. And I think that has created a lot of hurt in the world, and a lot of pain in the world, right? Because we think, if I can't understand why my best friend would hurt me, then God must not be good, right? God can't be a good God because I have pain, or because I have suffering, or because bad things happen in the world that are outside of my control. And I think we could do probably a better job I think we can do a better job in the church, at least. And again, I don't have a church. I'm not currently pastoring a church. I certainly don't speak for every Christian, so I don't want anybody, who watches your show to get the wrong, when I got booked for the show, nobody even told me what we were going to talk about, so I don't even know what we're going to talk about. But this is where we're starting.
Yeah.
We're starting here, I think, because Gwen was asking, how was San Antonio? So this is where we are.
This is where, yeah.
But I think we could do a better job. I think we could do a better job in the beginning of where we start, of where we start with people. I'm gonna talk about politics for a second, if that's cool. Is that cool? I'm gonna look at the camera. I'm gonna talk about politics.
We're good.
Okay, so I'm one of the founders and a senior partner of the Alderman Group, and we're a media company. We're actually a pretty good sized media company. And
you're supposed to be one of the best.
Oh, thank you. I mean, that's kind of you. That's kind of you to say. Yeah. We've been around a while, longer than most. We made it through COVID when a lot of other agencies shut down. And in this area, you'd probably have to go to Atlanta to find a company that's more resourced than we are. So we've done a lot, of work. And we do a lot of digital media, as you know. We do a lot of physical media. So we do everything from billboards, press releases, to radio ads, to Facebook ads.
What would you classify that as?
I call it PR and marketing. I think it's all the same thing that it's always been. I think it's creative work.
PR and marketing evolves with different.
Public, as long as you just call it public relations and marketing, right? Yeah. Then you don't have to worry when it's Facebook versus Twitter versus a website versus writing a press release for a news station or putting up a billboard. So I try not to. The truth is, it's my job to get people to notice what other people do and to understand how they're going to react.
I think that's it in a nutshell.
So let's talk about politics, because we just had a big political cycle. We have done everything in the I guess 12 years, 13 years that we've been a company. We've done everything from local school board races all the way up to consulting on a presidential race. Okay, so we've run everything from regional to state to national politics, right? And in general, not always, right? But in general, political candidates are some of the most anxious people that you'll ever meet, right? You'll ever meet. And it doesn't, we could say they're still wonderful. I'm not saying that they're good men and women or bad men and women. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, when you start with the premise that someone is called your opponent, then you're in a fight. Mm-hmm. And if you're in a fight, then you're not ever going to be at peace. You're never going to be at rest, right? Mm-hmm. Think about that for a minute. If we came in here and somebody said, hey, I want you to speak to your opponent, Dee Burris, I wouldn't come in here calm. When you hand me this water, I'd be worried. What did my opponent hand me?
Yeah.
My opponent is right. Everything's a fight.
It's a fight.
So I have great respect, right, for politicians that find a way to stay calm.
Unbelievable.
Okay, because
you got to hand it to
very
them.
Few. But let's take that idea and let's go back to the church for a minute. Let's go back to religion, because I'm using this to make a point. When I was growing up, I don't know about you, but when I was growing up, everything was about being in God's army and waging a war against the devil, and that war is being waged on me, right? And I'm not saying that there's not language like that in the Bible or in Christianity. What I'm saying is the focus was that. The focus is you're in a battle for your life. How can any kid become a well-adjusted adult that's like if we raised our children from the moment that they were born, and we were like, you're one day going to be in the military. I'm not talking about that. That goes beyond being patriotic. Mm-hmm. That goes beyond having an appreciation for the military. If we said listen, there's people. Think about that. You got a 5-year-old. There's people outside trying to break into this house, and they're going to kill it. How does that kid ever get any sleep? Right?
Yeah,
How's that kid ever going to sleep? So I think, at least in my experience, I'm not speaking for everyone's experience, and like I said, I have a love for the Christian church. I am a Christian. I'm in the Christian church. I think when you start from a really intense perspective, right?
From a tug of war standpoint.
Like I'm always going to be under attack. I'm always going to be under attack, and it's very hard to be at peace, right? So it's kind of hard to transition into the other themes maybe of the Bible that are love one another. How do you love your opponent? How do you love, you know what I'm saying? And these are why I think we still deal with these massive issues of sexism or racism or
Wasn't that the
bigotry
basic
or whatever,
premise of the Sermon on the Mount?
Yeah, love.
I mean, that's really exemplifies what you're saying right
Absolutely.
now.
And I just think
And that was thought of to be very liberal from the people listening.
Well,
at the time.
Yeah, at the time. Is what are we talking about?
Yeah.
We've been being chased.
We're under the.
We've been being stoned.
We're under the law of Moses. We got all these rules, and
That's
you're
right.
saying to relax. That's what he was saying.
Yeah, and he was saying, whoa. And I just think, like, these are two very different perspectives, right? That we can come from where, and I'm not talking, and don't get me wrong, I am not, I don't think I would fit anyone's category of being labeled a liberal, right? Doesn't fit who I am at all. I'm actually way far on the other side. I'm actually a lot more libertarian than I'm liberal. But I am saying, when we are more at peace, when we're at peace with God, we're at peace with our neighbor, we're at peace with ourselves, we're capable of doing a lot more good in the world, capable of viewing things more compassionately, more lovingly. And that's what I see in the person of Jesus Christ and in the God of Jesus Christ. Right? I see a comfortable even up unto his own death and sacrifice, right? Just at ease with his mission and what he needs to do. And I think we could maybe do a better job of that in general. It's not a huge criticism. I don't mean for it to sound attacking. Like,
I think what you're saying is,
if any pastors are watching this, I don't want them to think I'm watching their sermons and I'm attacking them, because I'm not.
I think what you're saying is, who wants to advertise to come and join a fight?
Right. Yeah.
Rather than come and join this group.
Yeah. The gospel is an invitation. It's not a bat that we hit people over the head with, like, not in Scripture at least, right? It's an invitation, like, come, there's a better thing.
Come whosoever will.
That's right. Yeah,
Isn't that
that's
the
right.
song?
I used to have this awesome. I had this boss, and he was just really cool. He's a cool guy. He should have been a pastor. And he used to tell me. He said, we're time travelers, right? I love this concept. I love this. We're time travelers, and we're supposed to be here right now to look at people and say, hey, I'm from the future. I'm from a place where there's no more war. I'm from a place where we don't hate our brother and sister. I'm from a place where there's no disease. I'm from a place where there's no cancer. And I'm here to tell you there's a better way. Right? And think about that. Like, just wrap your mind around that, because it's, in a sense, it's like, it's the most true, right?
Rather than carrying a club trying to get people to accept.
Right. Yeah, rather than walking around with a hot brand and saying, this is going to hurt for me. And I certainly, I'm all for, sacrificing what you need to for Christ and all of that. But I'm talking about perspective and sort of, there's a balance of these things. And in the world I grew up in, was very unbalanced.
You think it was a little bit too out of balance?
When I look at it, I'll say this. I think, do you ever look at the world right now and you say, what on earth is going on here? What on earth is going on? We seem to have a culture that is, on the whole, obsessed with anger, obsessed with being unkind, obsessed with fighting. So how can you ever be at peace and really get things done? You have to be completely counter that culture.
The media seems to make us want to pick a side.
Well, you know the old saying, if it bleeds, it leads, right?
Yeah.
You know, I come from a journalism background way back, right? Most PR people do. And so we, in a lot of ways, we reap that reward now, right? You know about like the regular science behind serotonin and dopamine, right? That one of the reasons people have panic attacks is because happiness doesn't release enough dopamine in their system anymore, so their body switches over and starts
That's why people get on
right?
drugs.
Yeah, it's like they have to have more,
Yeah,
and they have to have
yeah.
more, and they have to have more. And I think if we look at the way that media acts in general, right? You have some people out there, because I certainly am not. There's enough of this to go around on all sides, is what I'm saying. It's not, there isn't just one side that's full of fear and another side that isn't, right? That overall, right, we are reaping this short attention span. How can I scare you? How can I worry you? But the problem is, right, that would be one thing if that just was over here, right? If it was like, oh, that scares me, it's over here, but it doesn't, right? Because what did we just say about politicians or about young kids? Because when you're scared, then you act out of your fear. So then you create more things in the world for people to be scared of. So then the news can't, it becomes like a never-ending cycle, right? But and you have to work hard to break that cycle.
But how do you get them to? You're almost, in a sense, sort of criticizing kind of what you do, which is try to get attention, right?
Let me tell you this.
Am I right?
Oh yeah, let me tell you.
Is that wrestling for you?
I love it. No, I love that you asked this. Now I feel like I'm here for the reason that I
because that's what you do.
Absolutely. And you know what? Every single day at the Alderman Group, we make the decision not to run campaigns that are fear-mongering, scary campaigns. Because I believe that the other kind of campaigns, right? I believe that things that are kind, I believe that things that are loving or creative or put joy in the world, right? Those things, man, they break through. They break through now. There's so little of that in the world.
Do they break through the dopamine of the bad news?
I think they do. I think our result earlier in this conversation, you said that we're known for being very good at what we do.
You are. You're very good.
So
you speak very good.
I always tell our clients, I say, good-heartedness and humor will get you further. Will get you further, right? If I have the choice between running something that's scary or worrying versus something that's uplifting and humorous, at the Alderman Group, we're going to choose that every time.
That goes back to the Dale Carnegie. Did you ever have that? The Dale Carnegie class?
Yeah. I read the book. I haven't had the class.
You didn't have to, but you can get more flies with a.
Yeah, you catch more flies with honey
than you do a gallon of gall.
Yeah,
gallon of gall, I says.
Yeah.
So, would you say you're an advertising agency, or is that a?
Well, we do some. The big difference is you understand real estate. Mm-hmm. You understand real estate really well.
Yeah.
Right, because of your life.
Yeah.
So think of media and advertising and public relations and things like that in terms of real estate. Advertising is real estate that you own, right? If you own a piece of land, right? Mm-hmm. You can put a huge billboard up on it to say whatever you want, right? Mm-hmm. That's advertising. I'm buying an ad, okay? What we do more often is we're dealing in spaces that are owned by everyone. Facebook, Twitter.
As a general rule.
Public relations is that, right? So we are creating some ads. We do some advertising, okay? But in general, we're working with companies that need to tell their story through creative content. So we're doing a lot of podcasting. We're doing a lot of video. We're creating a lot of social video right now, little social video packets for people. Writing a lot of blogs. And so really that marketing side, and think of it this way. We could, let's say you and I open up a hamburger shop, right? We're going to call it Dee and Rob's Burgers LLC. We can go and take a picture of a burger, one of our burgers. We can dress it up to look as nice as we want, right? We're going to take this burger, we're going to fix it up as nice as we can, and then we're going to get Robert Briggs in here, and he's going to take some awesome photos of that burger, right? And then we're going to get, Ryan Faricelli to come up with a tagline, Cleveland's best burgers, whatever that is, right? And then we're going to get the rest of the Alderman Group team, and they're going to, Britton is going to get in, he's going to put it on Facebook, he's going to target people that only like burgers, right? And now we have this ad that's out there, right? We get Kyle Brooks is in here, he's filming the burger, right? We have a picture of somebody who's eating the burger, a video of somebody who's eating the burger, and we put it out there. And that's fine. But the truth is that all those videos and those photos don't carry the weight of one comment by someone saying this burger sucks.
You don't think you can out advertise negative comments?
I think that what you have to do is have a good product.
You think that's the basis?
I think you have to have I think that you have to actually have a good product, and then I think that you have to have a community around that product, right? So if somebody's going to say that Dee and Rob's burger isn't very good, we better hope there's 30 people who say it is good. And what we better hope is when somebody says, well, I got my burger, it was late and it was cold, that we are responding, dear Jim, I'm so sorry that your burger was late and cold. Come on in and have another one on us. Sincerely, Dee and Rob, right? That is a lot of what the Alderman Group does. A lot of what we do is to build community around products and around.
So you would monitor somebody's.
We do a lot. Yeah, we do a lot of community monitoring. We do a lot of community growing. We help companies to create incentives for their, programs, for their organizations. But yeah, anytime you can grow a healthy community, that's always going to be better, right? We know, listen, it's good. We do need video of the burger. We do need a photo of the burger. It's good to have a catchphrase for the burger. All those things are great. But with the rise of social media, we stopped just operating on the real estate we own. And we have to learn to operate on the real estate that everybody owns together,
That's very difficult, isn't it?
It's a lot of work. We call it the grindy. It's the grindy work, right? You get that, right? What is it they say? Have you ever heard the saying, biceps get the glory, but triceps do the work?
Yes, right.
That's an old one. That's an old saying.
Yeah.
A lot of people who watch this aren't gonna know that. A lot of younger people have never even heard that.
Unless they're bodybuilders.
I feel like I'm maybe at the cutoff of having had a granddad that said that to me. I don't know. I say it to my kid, but
how many direct employees do you have, or do you do subcontracting?
We have 8 full-timers.
Eight people will walk in
which
the morning.
For an agency,
will they punch a clock, or will they?
They don't. No, nobody. No, I haven't punched a clock in a long time.
Do they punch a clock?
They do not. No.
But you're saying, no. But you're saying they get there about 8?
They get there and they do their job. No, and I'll tell you why. That's fascinating. This is a major change in the workplace, particularly in the world that we inhabit, right? Is that I don't care when you get your work done, as long as you get it done well and you get it done on time. So if you're the kind of person that works till 4 or 5 in the morning,
and they're out there,
I routinely work till 2. Anybody who follows my social media knows I am active at 2 to 3. That's the best time. 2 to 3, the world is quiet. Nobody's bothering. Nobody's interrupting.
Are you at home?
By then I am. So here's my normal day. Is that for me? The alarm goes off at 6, and I hit snooze till about 6:30, and then that's when the kids are moving and out the door. And my wife, who is fantastic, I definitely want to shout out to her, Ashley. I love you, and she is a big inspiration, really, for a lot of what I do. And she was one of the founders of the Alderman Group in the beginning, and now she's a nurse, and so she's up early, actually saving lives. She's an actual superhero. I'm in marketing, and people know me from the internet. My wife is saving people's lives. Right?
Do the kids ride the bus, or you drive?
They do now, but I did drive last year. I was driving my youngest, so I used to drive him. So I get up. I am having coffee and sort of checking my emails and coffee between 8 and 9, by about that time.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem.
You eat breakfast?
And yeah, I do.
At home?
No.
You go out?
I almost always eat breakfast at Lassiter's downtown.
At 8 o'clock?
I have a. If you want to see me, that's most.
My
days,
cousin
most
works
days.
over there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. Well, it's
The
right
the
across.
blonde, I can't think of her name.
It's right across the street
Yeah.
from Emma.
Yeah.
Talking about
Emma. Yep.
Emma. Yeah.
Emma Gobble.
She just left.
Taylor's. Oh,
She just left there to take a job as a some sort of an accounting firm.
Seems like I heard that.
Yeah. So anyway, she's fantastic. Yeah. So almost every single day, I start with an unsweet peach black tea, so no sugar in it, and a bacon, egg, and cheese bagel every day, like clockwork. And then after I drink that tea, then I go to coffee. I drink some coffee. And then I work.
They've got really good coffee.
They do, yeah. And that tea's lights out. Now, I like unsweet tea, so I think their unsweet tea is fantastic.
Their coffee has a slight burnt taste that I really like.
Yeah, you like it?
Just very slight.
Just a little bit.
I like it, yeah.
Yeah. So that's right across from my office.
So 9 o'clock, then you head to the office?
Then I try not to take any meetings with anyone before 10. That's not always possible.
I do the same thing.
Because once I start taking meetings, they don't end.
Yeah.
And then I'll do that. And I'll do that until about 6. Then I go
You don't
home.
eat lunch?
No, but usually it's a lunch meeting. Almost always. And when I can, I like to eat over at Cafe Roma or when Fork and Spoon was over there. I like to eat where I can walk. Is what I'm getting to, right? Because our office is right downtown, so I like to walk where I go when I can. And then I go home around 6, and I have dinner with my family, and I spend time with my family from about 6 to 9. And then when everybody goes to bed, I start working again.
You have a home office?
No, but I do have a little corner with a nice chair.
In front of the TV?
And
You watch TV?
There. No. I mean, I do like to watch TV, but...
You turn it off at 9 and start working?
I normally, not always. Sometimes, if baseball's on, baseball will win, I can watch TV as long as it's the kind of stuff that can be in the background, And then I
so
work
what would you do?
2.
What would you do from 9 to 2?
Well, there's emails to do. A lot of my best creative work is at that time, but usually that's when I'll be doing contracts and proposals. So it's really hard to do the proposals that we have with our clients during the day when I'm being interrupted, because you're looking at a legal document. You want to make sure you get it. You want to make sure you're getting everything right. So
it's that stuff you can't do in 5-minute increments.
That's right.
You have to have 2
really,
hours.
You have to really buckle down.
Get in the zone.
Yeah, you got to really do it.
I have a lot of that. You can see this here. This stuff.
That's what I love about it here.
You can't do 10-minute increments. You got to get in the zone, man.
Yeah.
Really think through the whole process.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, did you ever watch any TV shows growing up that had to do with advertisers? that inspired you?
No, so I know my inspiration. I know how I ended up doing what I do, which is that when I was younger, like I guess to start with, I had a very clever grandmother on my mom's side.
Now, where was they from?
Up in northwest Indiana, Maryville, Indiana.
Are you a Hoosier?
I am, originally, yeah. I'm originally a Hoosier.
What was that movie?
Hoosiers. My uncle is in the movie. Hoosiers.
Now wait, let's back up.
Or do you mean Rudy? Rudy's
Hoosier.
one too.
Hoosier, yeah.
Hoosiers about the basketball team, yeah. My uncle is in that film. That's a great movie.
Are we sure we're talking about the same one?
I don't know.
Yeah, Gene Hackman.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good movie, wasn't it?
That's a great film. Yeah, that's a great film. I watch that film probably 2-3 times a year.
I thought it was about football.
No, it's about basketball. Hoosiers is about. That's why I asked if you were talking about Rudy. So Rudy takes place in Indiana, but it's about football.
Right.
And then Hoosiers is about basketball.
Rudy was true story.
Yeah. So I'm a Hoosier.
Yeah.
But I am.
Where's that come from?
Hoosier, the word? I don't
even know.
I think it just means someone from Indiana. I don't have any idea. I think
it's a mystery.
Yeah. I got no idea.
So your grandmother was from there originally.
Yeah,
what
we were
nationality
all
are they?
from there. Well, on my mom's side, British, and on my dad's side, Irish.
British Irish. That explains the little redness.
That's right. Yeah. There used to be a lot of redness. It's getting Santa Claus.
When did they come over?
Well, on my mom's side. Now they are, the Daughters of the American Revolution, that organization. So they are members. My mom is a member, which means you have to be able to track your family back pre-revolution. On my dad's side, though, really, Dad was the third generation off the boat.
So they came through the Alleghenies?
Maybe? Yeah, over from Ireland to New York and then down.
Maryland and
across,
down through the Appalachia?
Yeah. Well, because my dad, so really, on my dad's side, they landed in Appalachia, in the West Virginia.
Right.
So I still have family in West Virginia. And then he left West Virginia to work for the steel mills.
Which made sense.
So that was my whole life.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who watch your show probably don't know anything about that, but there was a time when that was American industry. That was it, man. That was it. And we were in the heart of that. So if you were to go up to northwest Indiana, where the coast meets Illinois, right? Where the coast meets Illinois. Just before you get to Chicago, like I'm right there. Gary, Maryville, Portage, Hammond, all that. Because that whole strip.
Michael Jackson.
At 100%, yeah.
John Cougar Mellencamp.
John Cougar Mellencamp. I was listening to John Cougar Mellencamp immediately. That was a lot of the kind of music that we listened to. Yeah. I went to church in Gary, Indiana, growing up. Only two or three blocks away from where Michael Jackson grew up.
Is that right?
Yeah. And Dad worked at the steel mills there, and we read the Chicago Tribune newspaper. Mm-hmm. We rooted for the Bulls.
Yeah.
We rooted for the Blackhawks. We rooted for the Cubs, and which is funny, right? Because we were closer to the White Sox. Almost everyone who went to my school was a White Sox fan. But I had a pastor who was a Cubs fan. And if you went out on the weekend and you gave out flyers to come to church, then he would buy you a Cubs ticket.
I used to know some Kicksmillers from there. Is there a lot of Kicksmillers?
I don't know. I don't know.
They were from Indiana.
Yeah?
Yeah, they were really good guys. Yeah. I mean, they were just so much fun.
In general, I think my time in Indiana was great.
Did you come here to college?
I did, yeah. I came here because we went to a Church of God there in Hobart, Indiana. And a kid who went to my church wanted to come to Lee Day, but his car broke down. So he asked my mom if she would drive him. And my mom asked me if I would ride with her because she didn't want to make the trip. And at the time, I was going to Indiana University Northwest. And so it was my freshman year. at Indiana University. And we came down to Lee, and I hung out with my buddy all weekend for Lee Day. And the whole time I was there, my mom was basically messaging my dad saying, we need to move Rob from there to here. Yeah, they fell in love with it.
How old were you?
Oh, I guess 18.
About what year was that?
Somewhere in there, 93. You know, I
Did you
graduated
fall
high
in
school.
love with
I
Cleveland?
graduated 92. You know what? My love for the area was immediate. You know, in terms of the rivers and the mountains and how green it was. You know, I was coming from a place that had not too long previous been the murder capital of the world.
Steel mills
You
and
know,
dirty
it was-
air, I
yeah,
guess, right?
It was rough up there. I mean, not that we didn't live in a rough neighborhood, you know. I recently went back. I went back last year, and
First time in a long time?
in a long time, yeah, first time in a long time.
Like 10 years?
And I went and saw, yeah, probably about that, yeah. And I went to see my dad's grave, and the town had just really. It was a hard experience. It was a hard experience because you love a place, you know, you love where you grew up, and you have it in your head.
Yeah, you had it in your head
How,
until you were in
how it
high
was,
school.
you know, and then I got there, and the house. So the house that I grew up in, I pulled up out front, and the couple was there, and they were so kind. They came out and they let me walk around the yard and go in the backyard. They had put a pool in the back, and I was telling him, I said, oh, that used to be my bedroom, and there was a big tree here. And he said, oh, yeah, that tree fell during a storm. We had to, you know, he used to tell me the story, and that was nice. But the further I went down the road where I grew up, where I used to like ride my bike, and was a lot of disrepair. A lot of the houses looked like people weren't living in them anymore.
Did you know names and remember
I could take you to a
things?
lot of them even now and say so-and-so lived here, so-and-so lived here, but they haven't lived there in years, you know. Once the steel mills closed down, so many people moved.
Life is sad, isn't it? And on that.
Sometimes, yeah.
Now your grandmother, you said she was the creative aspect or the
She really was, yeah. So all this is to say, I grew up one street over from my grandmother. And she was funny and creative and entrepreneurial. And so my grandmother was always teaching me how to buy things for $0.25 and sell them for $1. Right. And her and my grandfather had a trailer, and they would drive around to county fairs and sell Western belts and buckles and, you know, all this. And, oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. They would put it around you and mark it with it and chop off the end and press your name in the back. You know.
And the two holes. Some had the two holes.
Yeah, they don't do it
one.
anymore. That's not a thing
No.
anymore. That's not a thing anymore. But it was huge back then. And they made a good living with it.
I can smell it, can't you?
Yeah. Oh, yes. 100%. 100%. And so she was just always, you know, when we would be at the county fair, she would create like a little, like a cornhole toss for the kids and put up a sign with like a little grab bag full of like candy and toys, and it would, so that while their parents were shopping, these kids could put $0.25 and always win a prize, and just
Is this early 80s? Early 80s, maybe?
Oh yeah, early 80s, early 80s. And it just had a profound effect on me in terms of she was always writing clever things, always reading clever things.
Now that's an interesting point. Have you seen the new Elvis movie?
I haven't seen it yet.
It's from Colonel Parker's perspective.
Yeah.
And he was one of the original carnival promoters.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then evolved into promoting Elvis.
Yeah.
Your mother was not necessarily at carnivals, but she was at these trade shows and these Saturday, I guess, flea market type things. And so that was a similar thing.
Yeah.
And now you've evolved into this.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's all kind of the same thing, right? Yeah. It's all kind of the same thing. I'll tell you a funny story. Do you know what I think you'll like it. Do you know what a dollar snatcher is? You ever heard of this toy? This is a funny story.
It's plastic?
It's a metal disc about this big. It has a plastic button in the middle of it. And then on the side is a piece of plastic that's attached to like fishing line. And you tape that to $1. And you pull the string out and you hold the button. And then if somebody walks by and reaches down to pick it up, you let go and it pulls the dollar.
Yeah.
So when I was little, my grandmother said to me, I was in junior high. I'm in junior high, and she says to me, it's time for you to learn to run a business. So you're going to borrow $30 from me. But you're going to have to pay it back. And she gets out, at the time, there's a magazine called the Oriental Trading Company. Okay? And that's where you could buy, like, finger cuffs or, these dollar snatchers. So I chose a bag of dollar snatchers. Yeah. That's what I chose. And she says, oh, this is great. So we have one, and she shows me how it works. And she said, you're talking about, like, the carnival attitude.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So she says, you're going to go at lunchtime and put the dollar on the ground. And when you snatch that up, there's going to be such a big reaction that all the kids are going to want to do it. All the kids are going to want to do it. So the beauty of the dollar snatcher was it wouldn't last forever, right? It had a cheap spring in the middle of it. So kids would have to keep buying them from me, right? They just had, when it would break, they would buy another one. So I borrow from my grandmother $20 or $30. I get a bag of these things, and now I'm making money. I pay her back, and she's ordering more for me, and I'm selling these dollar snatchers all through junior high. I'm selling them everywhere. But at some point, a teacher went to pick up $1, and a kid snatched it away from her. And he's in, I can't believe you did this to me. And the kid says, Rob Alderman did it. So I'm down in the principal's office. And this is such a funny story, but it explains really who my grandmother was. Is the principal says, you're in real trouble. We're going to call you've created a real problem here. We're going to call your dad. Now I knew if the school called my dad, I was done for. So I said, Dad's at work. You'll never get a hold of him. Call my grandma. So my grandmother.
You were swaying at that age.
Please, come on, call my grandma. Yeah. Call my grandma. So she comes to the school, and she lit into that principal. I'll never forget it. She made me leave the room, and I sat on the bench outside the door, and I heard her say, you are so un-American. This kid is working a job. He hasn't broken any rules. And the principal said, well, he still has to go home for the day. That's right. Yeah, just going back and forth. And so that was the end of the dollar snatchers. But the whole way home, she's telling me how proud of me she was. She said, you did great. You built a revenue stream. Mm-hmm. You were really responsive to your customers. And so that was a lot of like the start of me believing in business and sort of like free market capitalism, if you will. But also she was a clever writer, and I always wanted to be able to speak and write as clever as she did, and I did not.
You have a very good voice tone. Has anybody ever told you that?
Nobody's ever told me that, actually. Everybody says I just sound like an annoying Chicagoan.
No, it's just even keel. I'm sitting here amazed at the evenness.
That's interesting. No, actually, thank you. That's
what do you think, Gwen?
What do you think, Gwen?
It's just.
Does it work on the sound there? You guys don't get to see Gwen. That's the thing, is they don't understand.
They don't get to see Gwen.
Gwen, we need to put one more camera here that's like pointed at you. We ought to call it the Gwen cam.
That would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah, we'll have the Gwen cam. But I didn't, at the beginning, I didn't like to read. I didn't, and they always say, right, you learn to read and then you read to learn. Right? Like a lot of the problem when you have a child who's having trouble with his education or her education is because they really didn't learn to read properly. And for me, it was comic books. Comic books taught me I am who I am now because my parents used comic books to get me to love to read. I could read comic books all night, and then comic books became books, right? And then books became novels, and then that became me trying to write my own novels and trying to write my own stories. And over time, I had to learn to write less. You know, one of the hardest things to do is to write just a little bit.
Brevity, they call it.
Yeah. And to be effective, you know, we talk about it at the, you know, we call it primal copy at the Alderman Group. We believe in primal copy, which is like kind of getting to the point, saying what you want to say well in a way that people can understand it. And so I read and I read and I read, and then I learned to write and write and write and write and write. And then I had to learn to scale back my writing and write less but better, you know. And now it's what I do for a living, you know, because ultimately every billboard, every video, everything starts with some form of thinking it through and writing it down. And
you're sort of the tail that wags the dog in a lot of things.
Maybe so. I've always wondered about that saying. You know, I know that it's really political in nature.
Only because of the movie, but I think before it had another context.
What do you think the meaning of that is?
The meaning of that is you could say that behind every good man is a good woman.
Sure.
That's the tail that wags the dog.
Gotcha. Yeah, there's always something happening behind the thing.
There can't be a good policeman without a good police chief.
Sure, yeah.
There's always somewhere, the person that's making it happen is never seen.
I will say that is the hardest. Probably, you know, when you were saying, is this hard or is that hard? Earlier you were asking me. The hard thing is, from my earliest days, I was a performer. Always have loved entertainment and entertaining people. But as an agency, we don't want to be seen, right? We want our client to be seen. And so, always, right, rule number one is you're not the story, right? We're not the story. The Alderman Group is not the story, you know. And it makes it hard to promote yourself because you always feel weird telling people. You know, earlier when you said that we're good at what we did, that was hard for me to even hear, even though I think it's true. I think pragmatically it's true, right? Pragmatically, people at this point all over the world see things that we do and like them. But when you say, hey, you're very good at what you do, I have trouble because we're the tail that wags the dog, right? Nobody, the tail doesn't want to be seen. Right? The tail doesn't want to.
Well, if the tail's being seen, it's not doing its job.
Yeah.
I guess, right?
I guess. And so you have that at the agency, but it's coupled with me as a person. But me as a person loves to be seen. I'm extroverted, you know. And so that's been a real, you know, you have to work really hard.
An inner struggle?
Maybe? I think so. You know, my wife is a lot better at it than I am. First of all, my wife is she's a nurse now, but she's a better writer than I am.
What would you write? Like?
I mean, I've written scripts. I read a ton of scripts for us now, scripts that turn into videos, or I read a lot of short film, radio ads, things like that. But like, I actually love to write film scripts. That's probably my favorite. And on my bucket list of things that I haven't done, because I'm lucky, I've done a lot of the things that I want to do. And I write songs. I mean, what I'm known for, I don't want to get, I guess, off track with our time, is that most people who know anything that I've written are probably more acquainted with my music than they are with the Alderman Group or with anything like that, because I write songs constantly.
I've seen some of your stuff, and it's a different genre.
Yeah, I mean, it's mostly my own personal music is pretty Americana. It's a lot like maybe Tom Petty or It's a little bit of rock and a little bit. What is it they used to say? We play both kinds. We play both kinds, rock and country.
A little bit of country, a little bit of Donny Osmond and Marie Osmond.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit country.
I'm a little bit of country. I'm a little bit of rock and roll. See, yeah.
He's coming back out. Have you seen some of his stuff?
I haven't seen that, but I do miss it. I miss Donnie and Marie.
Donnie and Marie Osmond.
That my parents would let me stay up late
to watch.
What
night did they come on?
I don't know, but I was too young to know that, but I did love it. Again, entertainment, right? I love entertainment. And so what I love, I write music naturally. And I have always been a musician. And I've always entertained in that way. But what I want to do is to finish some of my film scripts and then get to the business of making at least one.
Film?
Yeah, I want to make it.
Movie or film?
Yeah, I mean, what do you think they're different?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, do you?
Yeah.
Tell me what you think the difference is. Film's more serious, I guess. I write if that's how you view it, then I write films.
A movie could be, in front of a green screen. A film would be more of a true background.
Sure. So definitely film for me.
Like who's that guy? One of the guys that I like real well. Searching for what's the name of that movie? Finding.
Are you talking about Waiting for Guffman?
No, Finding.
I don't know.
I figured it out.
All right, I'm ready.
Being John Malkovich.
That's the one. Yeah.
That was one of the
craziest
shows.
That's a great film.
But I really liked it.
Well, when you put it like that, that's what I want to write films for sure.
Do you think that art is music, poetry, writing, paintings? Is it cover all of that in your mind?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's all art. Now, what would be the definition of art per Webster?
Oh goodness, I don't know. Do you know?
Yeah.
What is it?
Provokes thought.
Okay.
Which is what you do.
Well, I try.
You just try to provoke the thought in a direction.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Instead of doing it for yourself, now you're being hired to do it for someone.
I think I tell, I work with a lot of the universities around here, and I meet with a lot of the students. And I always tell them that when you're trying to build a creative voice, it's so important who you work with, because you can never put yourself in a situation where you have to lie or even just a little bit, you don't want to spin. Like, I don't want to live in a world where I'm spin. Like, I'm not a good spin doctor. You probably can tell. Yeah, I'm too straightforward. I'm not good at being a spin doctor.
Can you get on the edge?
I prefer to stay away from it as far as I possibly can.
Is it a good hamburger?
And I think it has to be. That's exactly it, right? We're not going to promote a burger that we don't like. Right? I always want to feel like the thing I'm telling people is true, because I do have the power to persuade.
And in the end, it would be detrimental to you if you couldn't sell it, and if it wasn't any good, you're working on a lost cause.
And in the beginning, right, when you first start working, you know this, right, with your construction business. In the beginning, you built whatever you could do. You built whatever.
I paid them to let me build.
That's right. That's right. You paid exactly. You paid them to let you build.
That's
right. And then over time, you could say, I'm not going to build that. I'll build this. And over time, then maybe you became an expert in certain kinds of buildings, and you didn't have to do it. And so now, we're very blessed at the Alderman Group to not have to do work that we don't believe in, that we don't want to do.
How many clients would you have right now?
Oh, right now, we probably have somewhere between 20 to 30 clients, 20 to 25 clients.
You're there. You're doing advertising for them on a regular basis.
Almost every client that we have, almost every single client is a monthly retainer. So we're doing work for all of them all the time. Yeah.
Is the retainer amount different depending on what you do, I guess,
yes,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's not all just social media, right?
Right. No, like I said, there's short film, there's billboards, there's brochures, there's standard advertising, creative marketing. Facebook, we're doing a lot of Facebook groups now, so we really help a lot of brands to build the communities around what they do.
Let me tell you about Capstar Bank. They're located in Nashville, Hendersonville, Gallatin, Athens, Madisonville, Sweetwater, Etowah, and in Cleveland at 950 25th Street and 3855 North Ocoee Street. I've used them. I like them. Give them a try. They're no problem. Hello, I'm Dee Burris, and most of you know me as a general contractor. In October of 2020, I started a podcast that I call The Discussion with Dee Burris. Each week, I have conversations with interesting, informative, and fascinating people from Cleveland and Bradley County and the surrounding areas. You can watch the discussion at dburris.com on YouTube and Facebook, where we would ask you to please subscribe, it's free, for updates and notifications of new shows. It's no problem.
Who in the, I'm a big sitcom and movie buff guy.
Okay. Yeah.
Who was it that was in the advertising business that I'm trying to think of? I can see, I Love Jeannie? No, no. Who? Bewitched.
Bewitched?
Bewitched. He was.
Is that true?
Yeah, he was an advertiser.
His name was Darren.
Darren, yeah, he'd always
Darren,
come
was
in
he
with
in advertising?
He'd come in with that big thing.
I didn't know. I didn't know that he was an
Yeah.
advertising guy. That one's almost.
But it's the same
Before my
thing,
time.
is it not? It's the same thing.
Advertising, marketing.
Yeah,
I think it's this.
I think you said it right when you said your job is to
Get eyes on things. Right?
Get them
That's
noticed.
Right. That's right. Get eyes on things. Let's get eyes on it, whether it's through public relations or it's marketing or it's advertising. Let's get people to notice it.
It could be cancer awareness, breast cancer.
Yeah, we work with a ton of nonprofits, and I prefer it. I love the work we do in medical. I love the work we do in nonprofit. You look at the main focus of my last year isn't even a client, but with what's happening in Cleveland. That group started in August, so we're at see what day we are. We're at August 7th. So in like 11 days, we'll have been around a year, right? And that group's almost at 30,000 people now, and they're all local. Out of a city of 45,000 people, 47,000?
Well, I guess you could say 110,000 in the county.
Okay,
okay. But still, that's a large amount.
It's not a small amount, right?
No, it's a large amount.
And if you look at that group, right?
Almost a third.
Yeah, we're putting just pouring our heart and soul into kindness and neighborliness. Are we going to be a kind city? Are we going to be a neighborly city? Are those the things that we're going to be? How are we going to treat our neighbors? How are we going to treat the people near us? Right? I would much rather put my work into that. I would much rather pour myself into that. And let me say, I've done this long enough to know there are some Dee and Rob's Hamburgers could be a very kind and good company, right? We may be taking 15% of what we do and donating it to cancer research and taking all of our hamburgers that are left over at the end of the day and hand delivering them to the homeless, right? And so not every company is the same, even just because they have the same product. And so one of the things we're lucky, blessed, however you want to say it, at the Alderman Group is we get to choose.
Your payroll would have to be what a week?
My payroll?
Yeah, 8 people plus you.
I don't know. That's not even. That's why I have an accountant. I couldn't even tell you.
But when somebody comes to you and says, I want to hire you for this thing, you have to sit down between 9 and 2 and you're figuring out, okay, here's how we'll do it.
That's right, yeah. It's always people resources, right? It's always how many people does it take to do it right and how much time.
But what about the coordination?
Well, that's why we have a senior ops strategist, and I have a junior partner that oversees the content team.
Now, how did you get from that statement, from a guy that came to Lee College, to where you're at? Fill in that gap, because people don't just wake up and have this going on.
Sure. So, it comes from music. That's where it begins. Is that when I was a junior at Lee University, I had to have a senior project. Everybody has to have sort of a final senior project. And my senior project was that I was going to interview independent record label owners. And so I began to reach out to them, and what I found was that they were all very kind, but none of them had enough time to talk to me. They were all running record labels out of their garages and stuff like that. And so instead, I built my own, and I started a record label when I was at Lee University. And I got 3 or 4 bands on the record label, and I started making records and putting them on tour, and then I had to learn how to promote those records to radio. So I had to learn how to write press releases, so I started writing press releases, and then I had to learn how to promote those, how to promote them to bigger festivals, so I had to learn how to make posters, and then I had to learn how to make videos, and so everything I do now, I was learning then, right, in that small way then. And so at some point I was promoting those bands well enough that then Sony Records came to us and said, can you do for our bands what you've been doing for your bands? That's sort of the beginning, a little bit of the beginning of the agency.
Sony?
Yeah, Sony Records. I had been
Not
signed.
Sonya, but Sony.
No, Sony. So I was in a band. At the time. We got signed to Warner Brothers Records. Warner Brothers. And right after we signed, this is what Gwen may remember. That you may actually remember this because it was kind of local, made me local famous. Not famous.
Yeah.
But I got signed to Warner Brothers, and I had made a record. The record sounded pretty good. It was good. I was proud of it. And we were signed by a man in Nashville named Richard Orga. You can still look him up. He's famous for being the publisher of It's 5 O'Clock Somewhere. Okay, and also he did something really big with oh goodness, what's that? They were some Church of God guys in a band called East West, and then they went their own ways. And it's three guys. They sing a song called "I'm Coming Home." It's like it's a country song. No, it's a country song though.
I'm coming home.
Anyway,
yeah.
I'm trying to remember those guys, and so he was their publisher, and I had played at a place called the Blue Light Cafe in Nashville, and the main band that he was coming to see, their van broke down. So our band ended up playing that spot, and we met him, and he signed us to Warner. And so the day after we signed to Warner, Sony, BMG, hostily bought out Warner Brothers Records. And so I had just signed to a record label that didn't exist anymore, and my album was shelved, literally within 24 hours.
God, what are the odds?
And so, but what did happen through that was, even though they didn't release the record, because they didn't release anything, they didn't want to release anything that had been signed under Warner. They were only going to release their stuff. And at that time, in that same time period, I had written a song that was optioned by a country music singer named Tim McGraw, he's pretty famous.
Yeah.
And so Tim McGraw had optioned the song, so Sony knew that the song existed.
What do you mean he optioned it? He just had.
So it means, so the interesting thing about country music is most of the country music stars don't write their own albums. Most of them. I'm not saying none of them,
right.
But there's some that do. And so what happens is they have guys like Richard Orga out there looking for good songs, and they come to Tim and they say to Tim McGraw, here's a bunch of good songs. And they actually, there's a formula of what makes a good country music work. So they're like, okay, we're going to have 2 twangy songs, then we're going to have 2 songs that sound kind of like a rock song. Then we have 1 song that's a sad, slow ballad about my truck broke down and my dog died. And, and then we're going to, and so what they did with Tim McGraw was they built out an album of songs, and my song was the sad love song. Not sad. It wasn't sad. It was pretty. It was
the one they optioned.
So they optioned it, meaning it's going to go on the record. And so what happens when they option it is then you're not allowed to release it, right? So I'm not going to release it. It doesn't matter because
how much they pay for that option?
It wasn't much. It
like
was
$100 or $3,000.
Oh no, it was in the thousands of dollars, but it wasn't like a ton. It wasn't a ton. I think
it was enough for you to say okay.
Maybe I got like two grand.
It was enough to say okay.
Yeah, it was enough to wait. It was enough to not record the song, and then they record the song, and they do or they don't put it on the album, and then after that, you get paid. Then you can really get paid.
Yeah.
After that, if they put it out, and so. Sony knew who I was as a result of that, and so they began asking me, well, can you write a press release for this artist, or can you do this for this artist? So that's one side. Now, at the same time that I'm doing this isn't paying the bills. So over here, I'm working in medical billing, and I'm working in the printing. I had been right out of college. I'd had a job in print, like working at a print shop.
Which one?
And so, well, at the time, the first one was called Quick Print, and then it got bought out by Zion.com, and then it got bought out by Allegra Print and Imaging. Okay. So I was there at the end of Quick Print and all through Zion until it was bought by Allegra. And so. I was kind of doing some medical billing, I was doing some print work, I was doing some of that. And through all that, I ended up getting hired at Life Care, Centers of America. And I worked my way up till I was over the PR and the PR for Life Care there. And so over here, I was learning to write and publish and take photos and do all that. And then over here, I'm learning the same thing, but in a corporate world. Right? So over here, I'm just being very, 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 very creative. And over here, I'm kind of learning how to make corporate people happy. Right?
Yeah.
And so those two things kept going and going and going and going and going until the Alderman Group. And so at the Alderman Group, really, that's what you have. We have a team that has the know-how to meet deadlines and to work with corporate clients. But we also have our roots are very creative. Our roots, come from loving to write. We hire a bunch of writers.
Do you remember the day you said, I'm going in business?
It's kind of hard to remember the day.
I mean, did you? Are you an LLC or are you just?
Yeah.
So, were you already kind of doing it before you formed the LLC?
Yeah. So at Life Care, at the time, I don't know what their rules are now, but at the time, as long as it wasn't impeding your job, you could have another job. You could have another job. And so I had been promoted to the point where I was no longer writing or being creative. I was overseeing creative people. So I went to the HR department and I said, this is killing me. I can do it. I'm good at this. I'm good to our people, but I have to be able to write and I have to be able to be creative. So please let me do this on the side. So they did. And then once I left Life Care, I just did it full time.
Who was your first client?
Before I was full time, or when I went full time?
When you went full time, when it was just you and nobody else.
So the day that I went full time, there were 2 clients that I called that day that both said yes. One was Lee University. They had been looking for someone to re-edit and kind of take apart and put back together their website. and they needed somebody who would meet with every single department and interview every department, and then get rid of the old pages that didn't work anymore and write new pages. And so them, and then there was a print shop. I told you I had some print experience, and there was a print shop in Ooltewah that also owned College Press, which is at the Seventh-day Adventist University there in Ooltewah and Collegedale. And so I reached out. They had a couple of partners there, and they used to do all the printing for Life Care.
Yeah,
so
I can't remember
called
their
them.
name. I remember who you're talking about.
Yeah, so I called them and I said, I could still picture their logo, but I can't
I know
remember
it.
the
And
name.
I went there one day and they were closed.
Yeah, I'm trying. Well, they did. Yeah, they sold it to a bigger company. They moved. That's because they moved everything to College Press.
I was standing there with plans, couldn't get in.
Yeah, so you know where I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Right there in Ooltewah,
Exactly.
you kind of turn
Exactly.
right and drive up. So they were a client.
Yeah.
The first day. So those two companies were the very first two clients, and then
Where were you working out of?
I had an office in my attic, and I did a lot of work out of the front window of Inman Street Coffee House and Starbucks. So that's where I worked out.
Oh.
And here's what I knew. I knew I needed to go, if I was going to have clients, I needed to be where other businessmen were going to be starting their day, where they wouldn't be distracted. So I went and I bought myself a blue blazer, because everyone I knew that owned their own company had a blue blazer.
Dark blue or light blue?
Dark blue. Dark blue blazer. I always still keep one today. I always have one. I almost wore it today. I told my wife, I said, I'm going to wear, I'm not sure who all watches Dee's show, but I'm going to wear a blue blazer. And then I was in my closet, and my blue blazer was here. I was going through my shirts, and I was like, no, I'm going to pick drink water, love hard, fight racism. I was like, what do I really want them to see? So I was like, what's the takeaway here? What's the takeaway from the show? And so I put that blazer on, and I opened up my laptop, and I had no work, right? I had nothing to do yet. We hadn't started and people started coming by, sure enough, with their coffee. What are you doing? I said, just working. What are you doing? Oh, I'm getting ready to go to work. Do you need any PR? Do you need any marketing? Yeah, I think here's my card, and started going to have meetings, and, for that whole first year.
Do you think you were real cheap then?
To work with?
Yeah.
I was, so because I had worked at Life Care and had a good training there, I don't think that I was cheap. What I tried to do was this. This is a better way to answer your question, because cheap is so relative, right? It's like, is Burris construction cheap? Maybe. Depends on the stone you're using. Depends on the brick, right? So what I did was, I will name no names, Dee. You can't get me to, so I'm not going to. There were two agencies that already existed in Chattanooga. One, I knew, charged a certain amount of money. The other one I knew charged about this amount of money. Now this lady hated me. I already knew. She and I had to sit on a couple of PR boards together and different things. And she always sort of held it against me that I was at a corporation. So she used to say, well, I have an agency, but you work for a big company. And so she would get mad if we won awards at Life Care, things like that. And so I found out what she charged, and I found out what the other guy charged, and I put us right in the middle. That's what I did. And I did that so that I could have very direct conversations with people and say, we're not the most expensive, we're not the cheapest, but I think we're better than both the most expensive and the cheapest, which I don't, who knows, right? Those companies have been around a lot longer than mine, so there are certainly people who would say they're better than us. I think there's people, that's not even a competition in my mind. There's so much work in
How
the
would
world.
you be listed in the?
We're listed in the chamber book as PR and marketing.
PR and marketing.
PR and marketing, yeah.
And
some people list us as digital marketing, but we do a lot more than
It
digital.
sounds to me like you got to be both.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
So
it's not just all digital.
Yeah, we're PR and marketing. I think people want to list it as digital marketing because that just sounds new, but it's not. We know
It almost sounds scary. It almost sounds like it wouldn't work.
Yeah.
If you're putting together nuts and bolts, you
Yeah.
think, well, I don't. What do I
Well,
need to
so many people, right? They just need actual help with their image. They want to make. They have an idea and they want it to be better, and that's really what we do. You know, what we really do.
Do you remember on the Beverly Hillbillies when they tried to make Jethro Bodine a singing star?
I do remember.
And they had that promoter, and he couldn't sing, but they had the T-shirts. And that's similar. Is that not sort of similar?
No, except I would only work with somebody who could sing.
But besides that,
Yeah, sure. I mean, any of that. You know, any of it. It's.
you're almost hiring a friend.
One of the things. Our actual slogan is "All Hail Solutions." Right.
All health solutions.
Solutions, right? There are so many things that businesses need. So many things that businesses need, and you don't almost never know when you're walking in to meet with somebody.
What's one of the
what they really
strangest requests you've had? Instead of somebody saying, "I want you to get us more business," have they ever said something that was totally different, but it wasn't to get more business, but it was to change an image?
I'm trying to think of if we've ever. I mean, the ones that are the ones that like stick out are when people will say things like, if they say like, we want a door hanger. You know what a door hanger is? It's like a card with the hole in it, and you hang it on somebody's door, or you hang it on their mailbox. And so sometimes people will say, I need this door hanger, and that, of course, we do that. We write the words.
Literally a door hanger.
Yeah, they're talking about a door hanger, and they want to hang it for their business, and then they come to us later. They say, "Well, we want you to put it on the doors." Right? Whoa, that's not. We're just. How are we going to do our job? How are we going to do our regular job and spend time walking up and down?
What would you say?
No. I'd say no.
See, I get the same thing. People want me to build their house. Figure out where to build it, how to build it, how much it would cost, the whole 9 yards, and then they say, "My grandmother's shower door doesn't work. Can you send somebody to fix it?"
Yeah.
And it'll cost me more to do that.
That's right. Yeah, it's not what you're built to do.
But do you do it anyway?
Well, probably in our weak moments, right? You shouldn't. Right? You shouldn't. But sometimes you do, right?
It's an age-old question.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Surely, sometimes you've done it, right? Yeah, you go and you do it, right? Even though you're like, man, this cost me more. I didn't make enough money.
You can't charge them.
That's right. I'll say I have gone out as the CEO, president of this company. I have hung door hangers on doors, right? I have done it.
Friday.
Should I do it?
Friday.
I don't know that it's profitable for me to do it. The age-old question really is, if you're a business person, I don't know who all watches your show. I'm assuming a lot of business owners, but we all struggle with, right? You know who we don't like?
Who?
We don't like any business owner who wouldn't sweep his own floor. Right? We don't like any business owner who wouldn't do what he asks his employees to do.
Friday, I was carrying flooring from the back of a truck down around the basement and putting it inside. And I thought, and it was like 42 boxes.
That's hot.
And I thought, this is what nobody sees.
Right. So the truth is, right, way earlier at this point, like an hour ago, I said I'm a pretty pragmatic guy about my faith. I'm also pretty pragmatic about my business, just like I'm pretty pragmatic about my Facebook group. And I am more interested in the results that help a client than I am necessarily how we get there. And so sometimes you end up doing crazy stuff that you didn't think you would end up doing.
Like putting door hangers up.
Put door hangers on, or again, I know, you know what's happening in Cleveland. I know what's happening in Cleveland. Look at that thing now.
right? Almost 30,000 people and businesses have a place where they, those people are being served by the Alderman Group and they don't even know it.
Yeah.
Like the Alderman Group. We built that group.
Do you do that for free?
Oh, yeah, most of it. We have group sponsors.
Yeah.
And so there are group sponsors who do pay to get special promotions on the group, but the money I don't take, so that money doesn't go to me. That's how we do things like feed the homeless and, all the different stuff that we're doing on that group where we're like feeding the homeless or we're, getting water and Gatorade for the homeless right now. It's so hot out. It's crazy. And so, like, that's where we want to be invested. And I'm sure, like, you have the same. Like you were just saying, you help this old lady with her shower, even though, should you?
Oh,
yeah.
I do.
As a person, you should.
I do maintenance on the emergency shelter.
That's
right.
right.
You can't charge them.
No, you can't. You can't do it. And right, and like, just look how blessed we are as people. Like, what are we doing? We're sitting here, having a good time. Glenn's here. We're talking. Like, who are we to not help a lady who needs a shower or a homeless person get water? It's important.
Well, I hate to use the word karma, but it's good karma.
You don't need to hate to use it. I guess there's some people who don't like that word, but
Do you
I
think
know
there's
I believe
such
it.
thing as
I'm
good karma?
I'm a Bible believing Jesus man. I believe in karma.
So you think the more you...
Sure. What is it the Beatles said? In the end, what is it, Gwen? What is it? In the end, the love you get is equal to the love you give, or the love you take. Yeah. Listen, right?
Do you think what we put out we bring back? I mean, do you think we can create our own reality?
So, I think my wife has this incredible saying where she says, "We make the future we want." Right? We make it. We make it. It takes work.
I agree with that.
Now,
but I even go to extreme.
Okay.
We can literally speak it into existence.
Are you one of those? You like a name it, claim it type of guy?
I'm one of those.
So, I don't want to offend you.
Okay.
Here's why I'm not. Let me tell you why I'm not. The reason, and I think you'll understand that I'm not attacking you. So, the reason I'm not saying that we're not putting energy out there and receiving it back. I'm not saying that when I'm doing what's happening in Cleveland, right, which takes all day, as you know, monitoring that group, doing that group, people, dude, there's so many people out there. I never knew that I could be so disliked by people just for doing good. Like, I'm just trying to give away breakfast to little diner on Friday. Some people get angry, but we do all that, and we help widows or we help these people, and that's good. And I think so many people are doing it and never being seen. So like you and I, we're the exception that we're seeing it all, right? There's people doing good all around. But the reason that I can't be a name it, claim it guy is because if it doesn't work in a third world country, it doesn't work for me, right? Like if you're sitting in a poverty-stricken part of the world, you can't name it, claim it. That's not, I mean, and I'm not saying that's what you mean. I'm just saying when I hear it, that's kind of what's in my head is like, how do they claim it? Like when I think name it, claim it, I think of like Joel Osteen saying like, put your hands on the truck you want and speak it into existence. And like somebody in a third world country's not, they can't do that.
No, but there's a lot of people that are successful today. You ask them, they say, I was thinking about this.
Yes. I agree. I agree with that.
Now, whether that's speaking it into existence
or making it,
I'm not sure.
I believe in things like willpower, hustle. I do believe in blessing. I think that there's certainly things in my life that I don't deserve, that I am blessed to have,
If you want residential or commercial plumbing, give Rick's Plumbing a call. Call Jason or Josh. They'll do you a good job. I use them. I've used them for years. They're no problem.
Come on. Woo! What?
When did your grandmother die?
When did my grandmother die? trying to think. I would have been near. It would have been not too long after I graduated from college.
23,
So
24.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I'm in there
You weren't
somewhere.
doing the Alderman group then?
No, not yet. I was still working at the print shop. Then I was making music. I was on tour a lot. I played a lot of music at that time.
Do you see yourself as a musician or an Alderman group guy?
I don't have to choose. I see myself as both. The truth is, I see myself as both, although what I would say is that I do the Alderman group and I love it. And that is like my day-to-day. And I feel like my personal self-expression, right? So being an entrepreneur, that's part of who I am. I take great joy in that. And I love the people that I work with. And I love everything that my wife and I created when we started the Alderman. I love it, okay? And I love everything that comes out of the Alderman group, like what's happening in Cleveland, you know? Like I was saying earlier, right? Like that focus on kindness, like that's direct. My wife used to say to me, right, Dee, she would say, being kind is better than being clever, right? Be kind. Be kind. It's better than being clever. That's what she said. And that's the inspiration there. And so all that matters. But I think my self-expression, my pain, my sadness, my joy, that comes out in my music. And so I'm glad that that's what I still do.
That's interesting.
You know, there was a time...
That comes out in your art.
Yeah, there was a time when that's what I did for a living. So when I was on tour and when I was making records and when I was signed to record labels, that was then also my job. But I don't think it's a hobby, right? So music isn't a hobby for me. It isn't something I do all day, every day either. But it's definitely not a hobby. It's more than that. It's like kind of a part of who I am.
Not financial gain?
No, definitely financial loss. I mean, like I mean, there was a time when it was financial gain for me.
So if it's not for money,
the music,
and it's not a hobby.
No, it's like I said. Don't you do something just to get it out?
I have
What
never
do you
thought
do?
of that.
What do you do just to get it out? What do you do?
I've never thought of that.
I was in that back room during the break. I saw there's like a bike hanging. And
I ride bikes, but that's for exercise.
I know, but you have like 6 pairs of gloves in there. And you have
all for extra.
You have more. If I walked off this screen right now, this is what everybody. If I walked off this screen and I went right over there, there's like probably 12 cans of suntan.
Yeah.
Or not suntan, but sunscreen.
Yeah.
Because you ride a bike so much.
I know I'm going to need it.
Because you're going to be out there, you're going to need it, right? But when you're out there, you are physically doing something. But isn't there something else going on?
There is, and just you make up an interesting point because. With me, it's you call it a hobby, but I think things can get more to.
It's more than that,
more
though, right?
than a hobby.
Yeah.
I think hobby may be a bad word for hobbies.
I do too. I think. One time I said I posted online one time, and I said, even though music's just a hobby for me now, I hope you'll all buy my new album because I still put records out regularly. And I have a friend who is a musician in Nashville. He's been very successful. And he posted a comment and he said, "Don't you dare call this a hobby. You have been doing this as long as I've known you, and you do it excellently. You do it with excellence." So I approach my music, right? A hobby is something like, if you and I want to start playing cards, that could be our hobby.
That's a hobby.
That'd be our hobby. But we're not, it's not like when you're on the road and you're sweating under the sun and you're getting it out, right? Or when I'm playing music,
a hobby
I'm
is
getting
watching Gilligan's Island.
Yeah, I'm writing a song about the death of my dad. I'm writing a song about the joy of the birth of my children or being in love with my wife. Like, that's not a hobby. That's important. That's deep, important stuff. You know, like even we were talking about what's happening in Cleveland.
Yeah.
Just because that's not my job doesn't mean it's a hobby. It's obviously way bigger than a hobby.
It's almost a breeding ground for what you do. Does that make sense?
I am dedicated. I'll tell you this. You know, what's the name of our town? What's the name of our city?
Spirit of Cleveland.
Yes, City with Spirit.
City with Spirit.
I don't want that to just be a thing that we say on a sign. I think we should be a city people want to be in. That's not a hobby to me. Now, the Alderman Group is how I get my money. That's how I'm going to cut my check, right?
That's how you pay the bills.
And I'm good at helping clients, and I like to help my clients. But that doesn't make what's happening in Cleveland a hobby. That thing is changing lives. Like, you don't think it's changing lives, then go hang out with some of the homeless people that are getting the water and getting the Gatorade, or, you know, the families that group has, you know, not me. I want to be really clear, not me. Not me. It's not Rob Alderman didn't do this. That's not it. What Rob Alderman did was like shine the bat signal up in the sky, and it said kindness, 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 kindness. Be kind to each other.
Because you had the ability and the tools to do it.
Because I had the tools. That's right.
Such as I fixed up at the emergency shelter. I've got that tool.
I couldn't do that. I couldn't do it, right? I don't know the first thing about construction. My brother has built houses, and I'm always amazed. You know.
What's his name? Roach?
Yeah. You know my brother? Yeah, they call him Roach. You know why they call him Roach?
Why?
The movie Point Break. You know that movie? Patrick Swayze and Keanu Reeves?
Yeah. Keanu Reeves.
Keanu Reeves, right?
Yeah.
One of the characters in that movie is named Roach,
right,
and it looks like my brother.
Yeah.
My brother looked
I didn't
like
know
him back in
that.
the days. They call him Roach. So my brother's like you, okay? And you could tell me, measure 3 times, cut once. I'm still gonna get it wrong. You're gonna say you cut on the wrong side of the line. You're wrong. That's me with social media. That's me with marketing. It's something that I just know. And so just like you can go to the homeless shelter and do repairs, I know how to like rally a community to make sure that they donate the money for those repairs.
Now, what gives you that gift? Your grandmother? You attribute it to that?
I think the original, yeah. The cleverness.
I'm going to say...
Does that make sense?
I think what makes more sense is making something out of nothing.
Sure, yeah, yes. I call that the force of will.
You're making something out of nothing.
Yeah, the force of will.
I mean, there is something, but you're still making more out of something. That makes sense.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Because she made leather belts.
She did, and you know, during the Great Depression, right? She took my mom and my aunts, and they would go to the dump in Gary, Indiana, and they would find things that they thought my grandfather could repair, and they would bring them back, and my grandfather would repair them, and then my grandmother would set up yard sales and sell the stuff that people had thrown away, you know. And that. My grandfather, my whole family, I'm really lucky. A lot of people have a painful...
What about your mother?
That's what I'm getting to. It's like my mom and dad were incredible. My mother, so kind. And my father was very passionate and a hard worker and a leader, right? So like, people followed my dad kind of naturally.
He had that gift.
He had that gift.
There's people like that.
And my grandmother on my mom's side had that sort of gift. You know, she was respected, but she was a little more mischievous. You know, a lot of people have painful family stories, but I don't. Right? My mom and dad loved one another. Had a good upbringing. We didn't grow up wealthy, and we didn't grow up in complete poverty. You know, we were the last of the lower middle class. You know, Dad worked at the steel mill, and Mom stayed at home once we went to school, you know, so that she could be a stay-at-home mom. And my grandparents lived a block away. And so I grew up with a lot of affirmation and a lot of encouragement. And in my earliest days, right, I was being encouraged to sing if I wanted to sing, or play piano if I wanted to play piano. And they found opportunities. My church was so kind. I played at church constantly. And when I think back to how bad I must have been, how that must have not been entertaining at all, and all of the older people in my church who sat there and clapped and encouraged me to make me feel like what I was doing was okay. I'm so lucky, right? I'm so lucky, and I'm so blessed that is my background, and that's what I have. And so, you know, I got this sort of entrepreneurial mischievousness You know, like you're gonna bend the rules a little. You're gonna from my grandmother, but from my mom, right? I got be kind, and from my dad, I got be strong. You know, Dad was strong, and people followed Dad because of that. Mom was kind, and people respected my mom because of that. My grandmother was clever, and so we all learned like we were gonna make it. You know, my grandfather was just. My grandfather on that side was just the hardest steel mill foreman. Just worked.
Your dad's dad or
my mom's dad?
Your mom's dad, yeah.
My father moved from West Virginia, so I had grandparents in West Virginia also, who I loved but was not as close to. You know, I wasn't close enough to them to take any of their traits to be, you know, we saw them once or twice a year when we would travel to West Virginia, but I mean. I walked to my grandma's house, you know, the one that I grew up here on my mom's side. And my father called my mom's parents, mom and dad. You know, we were very close, very, very close. So,
if your grandmother was in a 3-ring, in a ring, would she have burn marks all over?
Oh.
Am I saying it right?
Yeah, I think if my grandmother was in it, you're talking about like a 3-ring circus?
Yeah, would she, you know, that you couldn't get out of? Would she have burnt rope?
I think that my grandmother would have been the one standing in the middle saying, everyone look around, everyone see, look at the dancing bear, look at I think that would have been my, my grandmother was really quick to tell a joke.
And that's
she was
creative
excellent
side.
At cards.
That was the creative side.
Oh yeah, you're never gonna get one over on my grandma. That was just not a thing. And my mom just was kindness. Kind of the thing I remember was that I could always tell my mother anything, and I think as a result of that, now my children know they can tell me anything. You know.
That's a big plus.
Yeah.
A big plus.
Yeah.
Huge.
And my dad really, you know, the piece of entrepreneurism and leadership that I learned from my dad was get up and put the work in.
Was he sort of a man's man?
Oh yeah, yeah he was. So was my grandfather. You know, they were both steel mill workers, and Dad was. They were both sang. They both were singers in church. You know, Dad was a music minister at the church, and Dad had a temper. You know, I wouldn't say not in an abusive temper, but he could get there. He could get passionate, you know, and also he was really quick to forgive and ask to be forgiven, which I think is big. You know, I don't think we don't have to stay at odds with people all the time. It's okay to have a disagreement and then come back and be okay.
Sure.
Be actually okay, not wondering if that person's coming after you for the rest of your life. You know, we need more of that in the world.
That's part of being Christian.
I think that is part of it, for sure. When you're really trying. I think that's one reason the world isn't pleased with Christians lately. Yeah, we don't necessarily.
That shirt saying "Drink water, love hard." Who made that?
Fight racism. So you'll like this a little bit. Is this got served to me on Facebook as an ad, and it was by a black woman-owned startup company that was starting T-shirts, and they said, we are one of the only, digital black female owned and operated. So the whole company was owned and operated by black females, and they were starting their company, and they said, so this is our first shirt. Mm-hmm. And I thought, you know what? People took chances on me, right?
Yeah.
Right? Don't you love it when you get the chance to help somebody in the beginning? How long has Burris Construction been around?
88.
Oh goodness, so much longer than me, right? So you probably love helping other companies when you can, and I do, man. I love it. And now I've been, Alderman Group's been going for so long.
It's just part of it.
It's part of it. So that's where it came from, and I thought, I believe in this. I believe in this. I'm drinking water. I believe in loving hard. I believe in fighting racism.
How about the sleeve tats?
Well,
was that in Cleveland?
This is all Chattanooga. So the story on this is that this says all hail.
All hail.
I told you All Hail Solutions is our company. So
all hail.
Yeah. So when my wife graduated from nursing school, I had always told her, when you finally finish with this, I'm going to get a tattoo of you. So I got this tattoo of her right here, and I did it like a World War II bomber girl, like what they would paint on the nose of a World War II bomber. Yeah. And instead of a bomb,
Morton salt.
Yeah, and instead of a bomb, she's riding a syringe.
Oh, I see it now.
And so I got that done, and once that process started, I was originally going to stop right here. And so this All Hail, which is the Alderman Group slogan, was going to kind of stop it. And I had this, this is the Sacred Heart of Christ, and I'm Anglican, so I've got the cross here, right at the top. And this area right here is one of the most painful things that I could, this little soft area is just unbelievably painful. And so when that was over, when I had kind of done all of this, I'm a fly fisherman, so I have a trout here. I'm a guitar player, so I have and I'm from Chicago, so back here I have an otter playing a guitar wearing a Cubs hat. Yeah. And then after that.
Is that a squirrel?
Here?
Yeah.
So this is a rabbit.
A rabbit, yeah.
And this represents my wife here, and I'm the bear. And then I have 3 sparrows that represent my kids.
Did you design them?
So no, the artist did. I mean, we kind of talked about what we want. So we have a bear here for me and my wife, and then even the flowers all have meaning. So this Lostromeria was the flowers that we had at our wedding, and then the lilac. You can tell there's like lilac through the tattoo as well. Represents the lilac bush in the backyard where I grew up in Indiana. And then,
what do you remember about the lilac bush? Why is it so significant?
Well, it smells great. And as a kid, it was huge. So it was in the backyard, in the corner of the backyard. And so where most kids would have a fort, that's where I hung out under that bush. Yeah. Yeah.
And then I have these sparrows, and then each of them, this sparrow's holding a quill, and this sparrow's holding a key, and then this sparrow's holding a horseshoe, because I think, right, these are the things that you need in life to be successful, which is intellect, wisdom,
luck,
and luck.